Lena had always heard stories about her grandfather's adventures, but to her, they felt like mere fairy tales. Grandpa Harold had traveled the world in his younger days, collecting treasures and memories from places Lena could only dream of. He had often spoken about a time in his youth when he'd gone on a treasure hunt to find a hidden island. The island, he said, held a secret that no one else knew about, and it was marked only on an old, faded map. Lena never really took him seriously. She figured he'd made the story up, a playful tale he told to entertain his grandchildren. However, that all changed when she was cleaning out the attic one Saturday afternoon. It was the usual mess, boxes filled with forgotten family mementos, old furniture draped in dusty sheets, and a few stray items that had been left behind over the years. As she dug through one of the boxes, her fingers brushed against something that felt different. It was a rolled-up piece of parchment tied with a worn leather string. Curious, Lena untied the string and unfurled the map. The paper was brittle with age, the ink faded and smudged in places, but it was unmistakable. This was the map Grandpa Harold had always talked about. Lena's heart skipped a beat. She stared at the intricate drawings on the map, noticing landmarks and symbols she didn't recognize. There was an X marking a spot on an island that seemed to match the descriptions Grandpa had given in his stories. A sense of excitement bubbled up inside her. Could this map really lead to something? Something her grandfather had kept hidden all these years? She ran downstairs to find him, her mind racing with questions. When she found Grandpa Harold sitting in his chair by the window, she held the map in front of him, her voice trembling with anticipation. "Grandpa, is this the map you talked about?" she asked. Grandpa Harold looked up, his wrinkled face breaking into a smile. But there was something in his eyes, a spark of recognition mixed with a hint of sadness. "That map," he began slowly, his voice steady despite the weight of his words, "has a story behind it. But it's not just any map, Lena. It's a key to something I never wanted to talk about." Grandpa Harold motioned for Lena to sit beside him. His hands trembled slightly as he adjusted his glasses, his mind clearly drifting back to a time long past. Lena's curiosity intensified, but she remained silent, waiting for him to continue. "Years ago," he began, his voice low and steady, "when I was around your age, I stumbled upon a secret. I was traveling along the coast of New Zealand when I met an old sailor who spoke of a hidden island, an island no one could find unless they had the map. He told me that it held something incredible, something powerful, but that it would only be found by someone who truly understood the value of discovery." Lena leaned forward, hanging on every word. Grandpa Harold's stories had always been filled with wonder, but this one felt different, more real, and more urgent. "I didn't believe him at first," Grandpa continued, "but he showed me the map, the same one you're holding in your hands now. At first, I thought it was just an old sailor's tale, but there was something about the way he spoke. Something convinced me that I had to see it for myself. So I set out alone, in search of the island." Lena's mind raced. She had heard about Grandpa's travels, but never anything like this. This was something more than an adventure. It was a quest. "I sailed for days, following the directions on the map, which was hard to decipher because of the fading ink," Grandpa said, a distant look in his eyes. "But when I reached the coordinates marked on the map, something happened. The sky turned gray, the sea grew rough, and there was this eerie feeling in the air, like the island itself was waiting for me." Lena couldn't help but feel a chill at his words. She had always seen Grandpa as the strong, adventurous type, but now she saw him as someone who had faced something far more mysterious and unsettling than she had ever known. "Did you find it?" Lena asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Grandpa Harold nodded slowly. "I did, but when I arrived, I found something I wasn't prepared for. The island. It wasn't just a place. It was alive with memories, with a history so old, it seemed to haunt every corner. I found strange symbols carved into the trees and a cave with a hidden door. And that's where everything changed. Lena was spellbound, leaning even closer. What happened in the cave? Grandpa Harold took a deep breath, his eyes clouding with a memory he seemed to wrestle with. Inside the cave, I found something I wasn't meant to discover. It wasn't treasure, or riches, or anything material. It was a secret so powerful that those who had created it wanted to keep it hidden forever. He paused, glancing at the map again. That secret has remained with me all these years, Lena. I never wanted to burden anyone with it. But now, it seems the time has come for someone else to understand it. Lena's heart raced. She knew that the journey she was about to undertake would uncover truths about her grandfather, and perhaps about herself, that she could never have imagined. But one thing was certain. She had to find the island, just as he had. The next morning, Lena packed a small bag with essentials: water, snacks, a notebook, and a flashlight. Grandpa Harold had given her his old compass, the one he used all those years ago when he set sail in search of the mysterious island. "You're going to need this," he had said quietly, pressing the worn compass into her hand. "It might guide you in ways you don't expect." The journey wasn't going to be easy. Grandpa had told her the island was somewhere in the vast Pacific Ocean, its exact location unclear, even with the map in hand. She would need to find a way to get there, but Lena felt a deep sense of purpose. If there was one thing she had learned from Grandpa's stories, it was that life's greatest adventures came with risks and rewards. With the map as her guide, Lena set off on a boat hired by a local fisherman who had heard the legend of the island. The boat's captain, a middle-aged man named Finn, seemed skeptical about the whole thing but agreed to take her out, nonetheless. For days, they sailed through uncharted waters, with Lena holding the map tightly, trying to decipher the cryptic symbols that seemed to be guiding them. The journey was grueling, filled with moments of doubt, but Lena pushed through, driven by the desire to uncover the truth. Finn, though reluctant at first, soon found himself intrigued by her determination. Then, on the fifth day, just as the sun was setting, the water grew eerily still. The clouds gathered in the sky, just as Grandpa had described. The atmosphere shifted, becoming thick with tension. "We're close," Lena whispered to herself, more certain than ever. Her compass needle swung wildly, but there was no turning back now. And then there it was. Rising out of the mist, barely visible at first, was the island. As the boat neared the shore, Lena felt a rush of adrenaline and wonder. The island wasn't like any she had ever seen. It was dense with overgrown vegetation, wild and untouched by time. The air felt heavy, as though it was guarding its secrets, but Lena was determined. She stepped off the boat, the soft sand cool beneath her feet, and began following the path marked on the map. The forest was dense, the trees towering above her, and the air thick with the scent of earth and salt. As she ventured deeper, Lena's heart pounded in her chest. She felt like she was being pulled toward something she couldn't quite explain, something that had been waiting for her all these years. Eventually, she reached the entrance of a cave, hidden behind thick vines. Her heart raced as she pushed them aside, revealing a stone archway. The symbols from the map were carved into the stone, confirming that this was the place. She stepped inside, the cool darkness wrapping around her, and found herself in a cavern filled with more symbols, ancient, intricate, and haunting. At the far end of the cave, there was a pedestal, and atop it lay an old chest. Lena approached it cautiously, feeling the weight of history bearing down on her. She lifted the chest's lid, her hands trembling. Inside, There were no jewels or gold, only a single, weathered book, bound in leather, with a title she couldn't read. But as soon as she touched the book, a flood of memories overwhelmed her, not just of her grandfather, but of the generations before him. She could feel the weight of the secret, the reason the island had been hidden away for so long. It wasn't just about treasure, it was about knowledge, a powerful knowledge that had been passed down through her family, carefully guarded for centuries. Lena held the book close to her chest, understanding now that the island, the map, and her grandfather's journey were all part of a legacy. A legacy that was now hers to carry forward. As she left the cave, the sun began to rise, casting light over the island for the first time in centuries. Lena knew she had discovered something far more valuable than gold or jewels. She had uncovered a piece of her family's history, and with it, a new chapter of her own life was beginning, one filled with purpose, adventure, and the unspoken truth that the greatest treasures are the ones we uncover within ourselves. Lena smiled, the weight of the journey lifting from her shoulders, knowing that she was ready for whatever came next.